You're listening to Tapestry, a podcast by a music lover for music lovers. I'm your host, Kelly. Music is a thread that weaves a course throughout our lives. Join me on a journey to unravel that thread and bring you the stories behind what inspires musicians to create. Side note, Tapestry is an uncensored podcast. Don't say I didn't warn you. Alright, so if you've stuck with me for this long, welcome to episode 50 of Tapestry. I kind of can't believe I made it to 50 episodes, so I'm hoping for at least 50 more. But anyway, if you're new to the show, welcome. If not, thanks for sticking around for 50 amazing episodes, hopefully. So for my 50th, I wanted to get someone that was, someone I was really interested in speaking with, and a person that I kind of vaguely know over the internet, but a person that many of my progressive metal fan listeners would be hopefully well acquainted with. So I'm happy to announce that for episode 50, I was joined by Gareth Mason, who is the vocalist for the amazing progressive deathcore band Slice the Cake, as well as a collaborator for the prog metal band Novena and their own project Fissures, which you will learn more about on this episode. I would say this was one of my more deep dive episodes, and we touched on a lot of topics, including things like getting into a flow state, free writing, probability, how context informs musical meaning, the state of copyright law, and the intersection of mental health and personal pain, and how it stimulated musical inspiration for Slice the Cake's epic album, Odyssey to the West. And so for the intro music, I was given the track Homecoming, which is off the Tech Habilitation 2020 Live at Home album recorded during the ongoing pandemic.
Witness the end again. Oh, and you thought you were a savior. Well, no one here felt any different. No. Did you think that you could save them? Well, I did.
Gareth Mason, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here from another country, another time zone, and we've been trying to get this together for a while, so I'm happy to finally have you on the show.
Yeah,
and
thanks for having me. Yeah.
You are quite welcome. So I tend to let my guests introduce themselves, and you have a long rap sheet of projects and things you're known for, so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about where people may recognize you from.
Sure. So I'm Gareth Mason, as Kelly mentioned. I am a musician, primarily known as a vocalist, but I, play other instruments as well. I'm mostly known for my work in Slice the Cake, which is a international prog death metal thing. We've been active for about kind of 10, 11 years now, give or take. Released a lot of kind of very critical darling type stuff. You might have heard an album called Odyssey to the West that we put out in 2016. I'm also in a band called Novena, based in the UK. I share vocal duties with Ross Jennings from Haken, which is really cool and wild. And I've got some other projects on the go, but people don't really know about those yet that much, aside from like kind of Discord friends of ours. I've got an album on the way under the name Fissures, Fissures, like anal fissures, but less painful. That's basically it. I do the music.
Hey, you said it, not me.
No, totally. If you Google wow. Fissures, like that's what you get. Like you don't get like some prog project. You get like pictures of people's bleeding assholes, and I'm just like, fuck. People have said to me like, you should change the name of that project, and I'm like, I will fucking never do that.
No, and I think honestly, you're the person who has cornered the market on the dumber the name is, the more easy it is to remember. Like I personally love the name Slice the Cake, but it's also kind of like, really, that's your band name is Slice the Cake?
Right,
okay,
right.
But you're never gonna forget it.
No, dude. Like, part of the reason that name was attractive back in the day was like, I was saying to the Novena guys on Discord last night, like, I was in a band in college, and we were like this weird, like, free jazz 3-piece thing, and we were called Fetus in a Jar, and and like at the time, I was like, why would a band call themselves that? And then like we also went by like Fiage, and yeah, I loved the name. And then when we were like thinking of names for Slice the Cake, we had all this like kind of trendy, like core sounding, like Gaia Aflame and all this kind of shit. And then Jonas did some fucking logo that just said Slice the Cake. I was just like, man, that's really good. While I was in Fetus in the Jar at the same time. And it just, it made complete sense. So yeah, I mean, if I'm going to be also the anal fissures person, like, sure, like I've got fetus, I've got cakes, and now I've got anal fissures. Like,
you need a band called Blue Waffle, so like anybody under the age of 18 can't Google your band name.
yeah, heavily NSFW band shit.
Yeah. Turn Safe Search on for that one. Any listeners out there? But
yeah, the internet's a dark place.
So I have always wondered how Slice the Cake came to be, because I actually, okay, so if you're listening to this, Adam Marks, thank you for turning me on to Slice the Cake. I know he's a really big fan of the band.
Adam.
Yeah, cool dude, cool internet friend, and I remember having the same reaction, like, that's such an odd band name. But okay, I'll give this a shot because I'll listen to everything. And I was, like most people who listen to Odyssey to the West, completely blown away by it. So I wanted to get a little bit more information about how Slice the Cake came to be. I know I mentioned in my lecture, they're a band that's all over the place and manages to do stuff. So how do you guys manage to do stuff, and what was the genesis of that band?
Yeah, I mean, well, to start with, like, the fact that we're all over the place, I think, was a bigger deal for other people than it was for us. Because in terms of the recording industry, like, working remotely and sharing files between people in different countries and time zones and stuff, that was already like completely normalized. You know, a band might go and track an album in Germany and they'll record it there, and then the files will get sent to be mixed by some other guy in America, and then it'll get mastered somewhere else. So, you know, me and Jonas, we met on Andy Sneap's forum on Ultimate Metal back in the day. And and yeah, that place housed a lot of now like very popular musicians and content creators, like you know, Joey Sturgis, who produced all of the metalcore for a while. He was there. Ola Englund from YouTube and Haunted. You know, everyone knows who Ola is. Glenn Fricker, the angry boomer guy, he was there. Pedram from Sectioned and Frontera, he was there. Like,
wow.
Tons and tons of dudes. Who else? Like David Tero, who produced Artspire and Cephalic Carnage and you know, Cattle Decapitation, he was there. Like, all these like amazing producers, and also loads of like young bedroom musicians who showed a lot of promise were also there developing their craft. So that thing of like sharing files back and forth was just already completely normalized to all of us, I think, because it was just the way things already were. You know, the internet had been a thing for a long, long fucking time. We all had broadband already. And yeah, Jonas was on there as well, and we were both like quite active members, and he just posted a clip one day of like some like 30 seconds of music. And it was the original version of the song Cleansed. And it was like 30 seconds, and he was like, I want someone to do some vocals for this as like a test for doing the whole song. I didn't read the part where he said no pig squeals, please. And I needed to do a bunch of like really dumb pig squeals, but he was like, I love it. Let's do this song together. So we did the song, and it turned out really sick. It's the original version is still on our YouTube. The pre-Cleansed EP version of Cleansed is out there from like 2008, 9, something like that. I think it was 2009. So, you know, we'd collaborated, and we were already, you know, like aware of each other and had begun a bit of like a working relationship, and we wanted to kind of make it a project, but neither of us was like generating the content for it. So we were both also active on Ultimate Guitar forums. And of course, there was like a sub forum there where people would post their like guitar profiles, their compositions, and all that kind of stuff. And Majero from Australia, he was posting his stuff in there, and Jonas stumbled upon one of his songs, which became Squander. And he was like, yo, can I record this for a thing with a friend from the UK? And he was like, yeah. So we did, and Majero was like, oh shit, this is good. And the rest really is kind of history from there. Like it just became the project. And because we found Majero and he's the one that's like primarily written the material, he just kind of throws the music at us for the most part, and we've just recorded it. And yeah, that's it. That's the genesis of it. It was all back in 2009. It all came together like pretty fucking quickly, really. I think it was like maybe a year and change between doing that first version of Cleanse and actually releasing the EP in 2010. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm always fascinated by how these things come together, because I think I'm still like behind the curve a lot of the time when it comes to like understanding how networking introduces people like in your local scene. Like, you know, you have such a wealth of information and people that you're connected to in the UK and your scene, and then you have all these people across the pond and stuff. Like, it's just so democratizing these days where you can just log on somewhere. I mean, clearly that's kind of how I know you, is through the internet and all the people that we all know. And it's like amazing to think that it wouldn't be any different. Like, it's no different from you running into the pub and you run into a guy and you're like, hey, do you play drums? Yeah, I play guitar.
Absolutely.
And suddenly you're in a band next week.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we you know, we're kind of roughly the same age. And when we were like little kids and the internet was like kind of first becoming a thing publicly, people were like, you know, our parents were like, oh, don't talk to strangers and don't believe everything you read on the internet. And now they all talk to strangers about QAnon stuff. Whereas like we like actually like made like real friends, you know, like we were the generation to kind of really become the first like internet savvy generation. So we had message boards, we had you know, MSN and AIM and ICQ and all this kind of stuff. Like I came up through IRC chat rooms and MSN and like RuneScape forums. Like I was a pretty like indoorsy kid. So I just became one of those what do they call, like a very online person, big finger quotes, like and I still am a very online person to this day because I'm just like that. So yeah, it's no different to like going to a show and meeting people organically there versus like going on Discord and meeting people organically there. It's the exact same thing. It's just like, for some reason we have this like idea of this disconnect between the internet and the pub, because the internet, like, you're not in the same physical location, but like the internet is a location to me. So I don't really see it as any different. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Before I get into more slice the cake stuff, though, I wanted to know a little bit about just more of your personal music history. Like, clearly you're a vocalist and you have a breadth of styles and things you can do, but how did you get started doing that?
Yeah. Like I had instrument lessons and stuff when I was a little kid. Like I played, I had like keyboard lessons in like primary school. Guitar lessons. I played, I think, like French horn. I don't know if it's French horn or what, but it was like one of the kind of big oval ones with the big upwards.
The big curvy one with the bell. Yeah,
yeah,
French
with
horn.
the big like sprouty upwards out speakerphone. High technical terminology here, but yeah, I played French horn. I did like I think a couple of grades of that when I was a kid as well. I was in like a youth silver band and stuff. So I was like a pretty musically active kid, but it was like on that same level as like, you know, parents encourage you to do that stuff because it's extracurricular activity. It might lead somewhere one day. You know, parents just want their kids to do stuff because otherwise they'll sit at home all day playing bucket video games, right? And you know, I'm grateful, but like none of that stuff ever really stuck. And then I think eventually I kind of fell away from music for like 3-4 years. Again, still a kid, but I was going to like a youth club when I was a teenager, and a friend brought in his guitar one day. I was like 14, and he brought in his guitar, and I was like, shit, man, let me play that. So I started looking up I remember it so clearly. I started looking up System of a Down tabs, and the first song I ever learned on guitar was Aerials by System of a
Oh
Down.
my god, I love that song.
Oh, it's
God,
such a great song. I know.
What an edgy, angsty teenage fantasy that song is.
Oh God, I had pretty cult taste as a kid, man. You know, like speaking of like the RuneScape forum, I just got to talk about this. Like, I knew this guy on this RuneScape forum when I was like 12. And he showed me like Dimmu Borgir and like Cradle of Filth and Slayer and Cannibal Corpse. So I was there like 12 years old listening to like I Come Blood by Cannibal Corpse going, I can't let my family know that I'm listening to this, but this fucking bangs, man.
I'm a sinner.
Yeah, I'm a dirty sinner. I know that I shouldn't be listening to this, but I loved it. And yeah, like prog and System of a Down and all this other like weird shit. By the time I was like 14, I kind of had cult taste by then. Anyway, so I learned System of a Down, Aerials, and then I was like, Mom, can I have a guitar? And I got an electric guitar like the next day. And yeah, I just kept playing and kept playing and kept playing. I got like a Pod XT at some point and started like trying to do like little shitty bedroom demos. And yeah, I went to college to try and do music. College in the UK, for any American listeners, is not like college in the US. That's like university for us. Like college is kind of, excuse me, the last 2 years of like kind of high school level, really, I guess. I was like 17 when I went to college, 16, 17. And I tried to do music, and that's where Fetus in the Jar was born. Yeah, life got kind of crazy there. Like my granddad died, and other family members got really ill, and I got kind of ill myself, and I like dropped out and stuff. And yeah, I think in that kind of interim period of not really knowing what to do with my life and just kind of bumming about on the internet, I met Jonas and did this piece of music. You know, by then I was a full-fledged like bedroom demo musician. Just playing guitar, singing, writing, doing bits, really, self-producing all my shit in my bedroom. And yeah, I met Jonas, and that's kind of the genesis of all of it. And since then, Slice has been the predominant kind of musical focus, I guess. But I've still maintained being a guitar player. I'm not like sick or anything, but I love playing guitar. I love putting my shit through like loads of pedals, and I like looper music and unusual kind of soundscapes and stuff. I'm not really like a death metal guitarist or anything like that. I like playing sludge riffs and loops and shit like that.
Yeah, I've seen some of your live streams and stuff where you just whip your guitar out and you're like, oh, I'm going to run this through blah, 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 this signal chain, and like see what happens. Like there's a sense of like playful experimentation there, which I think is very cool and very different from, I would say, like the rest of your stuff, where like you're like, I mean, like let's just talk about Odyssey to the West for a minute. I mean, your songwriting and the lyrics and everything on that album are so structured, and they're so like applicable to the concept and the message you're trying to explain, that it almost feels crazy that like both of those things could come from the same person.
Yeah. I feel like a big running theme in my life has been that kind of battle between structure and the lack thereof. Like every time I try and structure my existence, I start feeling like structure's a fucking cage, and I start wanting to tear it all down like just as quickly.
I can relate, yeah.
But I think when it comes to music and expressing yourself, there's things you can only express in a momentary way. Like I don't think that like my looper shit is any less like real and important than Slice's, even though Slice has the, you know, far and away bigger audience. Like I might get like 5 people watching me on Facebook like streaming some loops, but to me I'm in the zone right there. I'm in it, you know. And then with Slice, I'm in it as well. But it's like it's the complete opposite end of expression, whereas like something can be momentary and valid. Slice is a very like analytical and, as you said, like structured thing. Yeah, and I think that's kind of part of its nature, is it's like it's a place for, at least me personally, to put stuff that encapsulates perhaps periods of years rather than periods of like minutes.
Yeah, that's well said.
Yeah, like, you know, these big kind of I feel like, you know, if you're a reflective person, you stumble upon concepts that define periods of your life, or things that you focus on, like, this has been bugging me for X amount of years, and this is something I just need to get off my chest on a long form basis. And Slice is where I put all that kind of stuff. My big hot button issues, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I know you and I have had some very candid discussions, like on Discord and stuff, about mental health and just like the effect it has as a creative person, and how it can be a roadblock, but also, I guess, in a way, like it can also be a door that's open to you that maybe like neurotypical people may not have open, or like that maybe people who are less self-reflective might not be able to express, just because there's like a disconnect between, you know, your awareness of self and like your awareness of the things you've struggled with throughout your life.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I was trying to say there, other than it was just, I hear what you're saying, and it feels extremely, like, I feel very understood by that, because there's always these things like going on in my head, and it's like, well, surely there's other people out there that have that too, right? Like, how do you express that?
Absolutely. I mean, I found out at some point in like the last year or so that there are actually people out there who don't have a ceaseless internal monologue. You know, they don't have, like, they don't think 24/7, and I'm just like, it's fascinating to me, and I'm like, I can't relate, and I'm not sure either whether I like envy that or pity it either, because like I don't like to try and cross the wires. You know, you get people saying, you know, all the best art is born from like pain, and I'm just like, I feel like that is potentially a very toxic statement, especially if you're like internalizing it as like a methodology, which it's easy to do. Like I very much believe in like kind of method acting and stuff like that. Like tons of my favorite performances in film are from method actors. And, you know, look what happens to all of those guys. They all go fucking insane or end up dead or some shit like that. And I recognize that that's a danger. And Odyssey, again, I took that approach. Like I method acted it. And, you know, to get back onto the thing of like, you know, all the best art comes from pain. Like I don't know whether I should agree with that, but I think fundamentally, I must agree with that. Like I have to, because if there are people out there who don't have fucking internal monologues, and they don't have crazy brains that try to like self-sabotage and self-destruct all the fucking time, like what are they drawing from? Like, you know, no good story starts with a salad, says all the alcoholic people. But they're right. Who wants to hear about that salad that you had yesterday? I mean, salads are cool and stuff. I love salad, but like, you know, if I'm at the pub and I'm in the mood for some shenanigans, like I don't want to hear about your salad. I want to hear about the crazy shit. And I think the same is true in music. Like, if I wasn't kind of fucked up, would I even be able to do any of that stuff? I don't fucking know.
Right. No, I mean, timely interview, because I've been exploring all this within myself recently too. And it's just like, how, not that you want to purposefully suffer to create art, but then why do we constantly seek out art that feels as if it has come from a place of tremendous self-observation and awareness? Like if I want to feel something, I'm going to go listen to something that makes me connect with some inner trauma I haven't healed, or some observation about myself that, you know, I feel validated by that. Like, are there other people that don't do that? They're just like, I just like this beat, man. And I'm like, I literally can't relate.
Well, no, people are like that. They're like, I just think it's a good song. And like, dude, have you ever actually like looked up the Spotify like top 40 in any recent time? Have you done that even once? Because I did recently. And it was
depressing.
Yeah, kind of. To put it more kindly, I guess I would say it's kind of illuminating in some regard, in that like I felt like it all sounded very much the same. It was very like formulaic. And I felt like there just wasn't really much between the ears with much of it. Like, I don't want to come across as like some person that like hates pop, because I'm really not. Like, I fucking love a lot of pop music. Like, there's tons of great pop music out there, but like, clearly there is a market for stuff that is, without wanting to denigrate people, a bit more just empty-headed. And yeah, I guess that is what makes us who we are. Like, I don't think maybe the comparison thing, like, oh, well, if these people are like that and I'm like this, what does that mean? Like, at the end of the day, they are who they are and we are who we are. And yeah, I guess at the end of the day, I'm just gonna do what I'm gonna do, and they can do what they want to do, and hopefully the two shall never meet.
And I hope that wasn't a leading question, because I know your music taste is really varied and stuff, and like it's taken me a long time to grow out of feeling as if all the things that aren't what I listen to are vapid and inherently less worthy. But you're right, it does like lead me to this observation of, wow, other people listen to different types of music for much different reasons than I do, or even just seek out art or conversation for different reasons than I do. So that being said, I'm not as in the know on the story about Odyssey to the West as I should be, I think, because I've listened to it so many times. But what kind of headspace were you in when you wrote that story? And
oh man,
I mean, if you're comfortable sharing,
yeah,
and like
really.
what's the story about, and how did it relate to what you were going through at the time?
Dude, I'm absolutely an open book. Like always, I don't give a shit. I've got tons of crazy stories, man. Like my mental health means I've got like some fucking good stories. Basically, like I guess the ultimate preface to it is that like my nan got like bone cancer in like 2010, 11, and my relationship with my nan was very long-winded and strange, but I was left in a position in life where I had like actual true freedom for a while, and I was a very like just I was like dying inside, I was my skin was going gray, like I was playing World of Warcraft all day just to cope with being alive. Like I didn't know what else to do. Like there was nothing kind of left at that time. I mean, Slice was kind of picking up steam and stuff, but whatever. So she went and lived with my mum for a while she was fighting her cancer, and I was left in her house for like a year straight. And I met this guy who like he'd just come back from India. Like he'd like taken acid for the first time, and I think
finding yourself, right?
yeah, he went and like found himself, and basically it all gave way to this like long-term psychotic break, I think, except it wasn't a psychotic break in a bad way. It was a beautiful time in my existence. It was an incredible time, and I see that I put the person I was 6 feet under, and I became the person I am today. It was a long term like rebirth. We did a lot of we lived the life of the beats for a while. It was drugs and meditation and poetry and chaos and real beatnik stuff. And eventually that gave way to just like kind of doing too many drugs, getting a bit too into some spiritual, religious, perhaps delusional states of mind. I don't want to denigrate where I was, but I don't think I was particularly attached to reality at the time. And like I was in a very different, up there somewhere kind of headspace to where I am now. And the story of Odyssey itself and what the meaning of the album is kind of came from this observation that all of these world religions and storytelling traditions and mythic structures, they all follow the same kind of set plot points and ideas and symbols. And I started looking into like kind of Joseph Campbell, you know, like The Hero with a Thousand Faces, The Hero's Journey, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, wait, so it's all just one story? Is that it? And with Slice, I'd been trying to write lyrics that were about spiritual concepts and self-affirmatory concepts, and also concepts that like hopefully anyone could find something in. I wanted Slice to be like a unitive thing, a unitive experience for lots and lots of different people. So the scope kind of widened that much to the point where I was like, well, can this be a unitive experience for like all world religions, all world cultures, all storytelling traditions, all people on their own personal paths of chaos and love and glory and illness and awareness and upliftment and all this kind of shit. And that's kind of where Odyssey kind of came from. And I just had this very basic story outline of like, guy is told by God to go to the mountain, and he goes to the mountain, realizes he has learned nothing, and he dies there. That was the very basic plot outline. And then the rest was like filled in by just living and thinking and trying to kind of relate to the project, method acting it, so to speak. You know, I wrote all the lyrics in order of the story. So like, you know, I started at the Exile Part 1 and tried to live it through to the very end, and wrote it all in chronological order. And then, you know, there were other layers to it as well, like linguistically, you know, the way it's all kind of written in this like Old English sort of Judeo-Christian sort of structure. It evokes this like very biblical sense. And that was because I was like, well, if all kind of religions are the same religion and all myths are the same myth, then what is the dominant world religion and mythic structure? It's Christianity. And I also fucking hate Christian metal. I think it all fucking sucks and is all really preachy and doesn't actually evoke any like spiritual feelings in me. So I wanted to write some, you know, a Christian metal album that encapsulated feelings that I thought were actually true and genuine to my own lived experience of my spirituality, but also it had this secondary property of being a commentary on how language impacts us and how language shapes the stories that we tell. The whole album is like a thesis, really. The story itself is not important. It's what all the kind of symbols within it mean. And, you know, the way that the fourth wall kind of starts degrading as the album goes on, you know, and it shatters by the end. You know, the last song, I'm talking to you as myself. And I'm like saying, there's no masks, there's no games. I'm not a pilgrim. I'm me, and I'm talking to you, and I say it straight up. So it goes all the way from like this narrative trapping of like, oh, the pilgrim on this big allegorical journey to the mountain. And by the end, it's like, fuck, I don't know. Here's what I think I've figured out from this. This is over now. It sprawls, man. It sprawls. It's so big and crazy. And yeah,
that's why I love seeing like reaction videos to it on YouTube and stuff, because a lot of people tend to have a very I don't know, that there's like this grandiose kind of feeling a lot of people get when they listen to it, I think. And I don't know if that's so much like your delivery in the words or the actual words you chose or the symphonic elements or just the intensity of the whole music, but like so many people, you see that comment over and over again. They're like, dude, you just have to sit down with this album and like trip on acid and just like allow yourself to be open to it. And like, I've never listened to it on acid, but it has certainly made me experience some really like strong emotions. And it's strange because after everything you just said, it's not a generic album. It is the opposite of generic, but yet the story is like kind of devoid of identifying properties. Like it's like just, it's just enough that you could place yourself into it and imagine that you're going on the journey yourself. And I think that's what is so universal about it.
Yeah, I really fucking labored over trying to make it as universal as possible and trying to make it so that like anyone could understand something in it, understand the gist of it, and that there wouldn't be that much room for interpretation. And then since we put it out, I see people finding things in it that I never would have ever thought of, and I see these reaction videos, and it's hard to reflect on that album because it really is just it's too large. It's too large for humans. It's too large to exist, and yet it does. And to circle back around to this like mental health and music thing, like I don't think it could exist without the context of it all, which is that I wasn't very well, really, like looking back at it. And, I don't think Jack would say that he was very well while making it. And it came from pain, and it came from disability and ill mental health. And look at it. It's connected with so many people, and it's crazy. It really is. Yeah.
How did you, I guess, apply the principle of method acting to doing so much of it? Because I can't stop in the middle of talking right now to play an audio clip, but I really should insert probably something from like The Unending Waltz, or one of the more like absolutely manic things you do across parts of that album. Like, how do you get into that performative space and just be able to make your voice sound the way it does? Because you cover so much ground.
I'm not sure. I mean, I think when I like do any kind of live stuff, I definitely have like some little ritualistic behaviors to kind of put myself in my zone. I'll like kind of I'll wear a big oversized roby hoodie, and I'll start pacing back and forth and tensing my hands, and I'll look at the floor and tense my face and just start kind of seething and just going like, well, okay, now you're feeling this, and I'll just do it. And then by the time I go out on stage, I'm ready to like punch God in the face, But when it comes to the album stuff and method acting a whole project that's an ongoing vehicle, like, obviously I'm not there like day in, day out, like sat in my flat, like I'm the pilgrim and I'm, venturing through the woods and the fields. Cause no, actually I'm sat in my flat with my housemates, like smoking a joint and watching season 3 of Dexter or some shit like that, Like I realize there's a disconnect, but I don't know. I think because the story wasn't just a story to me, it was a lived real thing. The concepts were real to me, like the spirituality was real to me, is real to me. I don't fucking know. What the plural tense should be there, but it just came from a sense of truth and honesty. I think like I didn't have to try and like get into a zone to record that stuff. It just really came naturally because it just was real to me. But yeah, for live stuff, I definitely I have a pre-thing warm-up routine ritual I do, which is to just get into character and be ready to be consumed by it when I'm on the stage. But in a bedroom, like when you've just been like locked indoors for a week and you smoked a few too many joints, you're feeling a bit weird about life, like you don't even need to like try, right? I don't need to try. I'm already in a weird place.
That makes sense. Yeah. And like I was watching the UK Tech Fest stuff from last year, and like it is pretty cool kind of seeing how everybody's home setup sort of is their own certain way, and like there's you and your big hoodie robe thing, and the super moody like black and white. Yeah, like it felt very it felt authentic, but yet that because you were having to like capture this all for an audience, I wasn't sure how much of that sort of changes what you have to do. But that's okay. Yeah. Either way, it was just kind of a bummer though, with the pandemic going on, that like it just kind of felt like you had to distill this big grandiose thing down into like, here's our YouTube video. Okay.
Honestly, I think maybe the situation with performances last year was perhaps a bit of a blessing in disguise for us. I mean, because Cake is an internet project already, like the idea of doing some streamed sets where we all record our own bits in our own houses and splice them all together, like that's already how Cake works. To just kind of ride the coattails of a global pandemic just gave us the excuse to do it, I think. Obviously, we would have rather like brought that shit to a real stage. No, like we're planning this set once COVID is over, if it ever is, and we can ever get back to normal. Those plans are still there. And again, like don't want to kind of say too much about them, but like we were about to take a fucking victory lap. You know what I mean? We'd just come back. We were ready to fucking do this set, get it out of the way, and start working on a new album. And, you know, go silent for 4 years while we do that. But it's not the way things have gone. So yeah, we did our COVID set, and it was a good excuse to like, I think just like lay some foundations for like what the new live band is like, what our approach is like, how I've transformed as a performer in the last like 4 years. Like since Cake had its kind of death and rebirth, its hiatus, whatever, like I went and did a lot of like just guest bits for people live and used that as a way to like hone my stagecraft in little tiny bursts. So I've like taken down the old YouTube videos of us like playing live from the old incarnation because I just don't feel like it's even remotely representative. So yeah, you know, we got to like put a live album out, live, quote unquote.
Right.
You know, give people a chance to see where we're at. And yeah, maybe for other big like touring bands, it's been more of a kick in the teeth. But for us, it was just like, cool, whatever, let's do this.
Yeah, you were already kind of doing it. So you had a new song called Homecoming, I believe, that debuted with the UK Tech Fest stuff. And where does that kind of sit in the, you know, current like new emerging Slice the Cake? Because you're right, you were on a hiatus. Everybody in the progressive metal community was waiting with bated breath for Slice the Cake to come back, and then you did, and boom, here it is. So what's next for the band?
Yeah, I mean, Homecoming is actually a song from before Odyssey to the West even came out. So when we were rehearsing for TechFest in 2015 for our first gig, Majero sent us that track, and we were going to release it as a post-Odyssey single to like cap off the whole thing. And then, you know, that never happened. So it's part of this Homecoming EP that we're kind of steadily working on, trying to find the time to work on at the minute. You know, life just seems to not have enough hours in the day. But yeah, the plan is to get this EP out and kind of use this as a way to draw plot threads and life threads to a close so that we can clear that space for something like truly new. It's okay. An EP about reflecting on the journey that's come before and what it means to come home from something like that. And that's what that's about. Hopefully we'll get to do another album at some point. We've got ideas for kind of what we want to talk about. But you know, musically, like, you know, Majero's just been he's been like amassing guitars and like, you know, setting up a home studio and stuff and getting used to writing music in a way that's not just like a guitar profile. And he's actually like writing with a guitar in his hands now. So he's been on like a training arc, and we've been doing these stream live sets at home for a while. So, you know, when the EP's done, I think we'll be in a position where we can actually like pool our resources and start writing some like new, fresh stuff. And I guess that's the next long-term goal, is like, you know, make a new album. You know, I don't think we can just ride off the coattails of Odyssey being this thing that everyone loved for the rest of our days. It would be all too easy to, but I think none of us want to live in the shadow of that. So, yeah, new album, hopefully be something like very different sounding, come from a very different place. Hopefully people will really like it, and then maybe we can, do a tour or something one day.
Get ready for all the people who are going to be listening to your next album in like 2023, and they're like, "Oh man, Odyssey was just like the best
So
thing
much
ever.
better,
Whatever.
man. Yeah.
Man, I like their old stuff." I mean,
Like
even
the
though you
old
had
stuff
like,
better, man.
yeah, like they had like the Man with No Face and that other, what was
Yeah.
that, Other Slices, I think. I mean,
Other
you guys
Slices,
have
yeah.
other music out there that isn't just this gigantic deathcore epic, but that's what kind of sticks with everyone. So, um, I kind of had like a two-pronged question here, but really you just said how, okay, we want to start working on an album and writing more. What is your actual vocal, like your melody writing process or your lyric writing process? Does it come first and then the music gets added, or does it kind of intertwine?
No. So typically the music has always been very complete before I start writing any lyrics. And that's not because I guess I didn't want to write lyrics, but more that I think with Odyssey we did have ideas of what the concepts and the story was going to be, but then like Majera just wrote a bunch of music, and then he wrote some more music. And then like 2 years later I finally put pen to paper because like I said, that album was kind of like a thesis for me. So more time was spent thinking about how to say what I wanted to say and what it was that I wanted to say in the first place, so that I could say it with clarity when the time did come to put pen to paper. And yeah, I think again the lyrical stuff with Slice is always very analytical. It's very like it's about trying to cram as much structure in as possible, but I'm a lot more into free writing these days, and I don't know that I want to perhaps make another album anytime soon that is a really ordered piece of prose. Because of course, like all the other Slice stuff, it's all conceptual. Like Cleansed is a concept EP, The Man with No Face is a concept album. The only one that isn't is Other Slices, which is just literally like it's B-sides. And because of that, I didn't approach it with trying to put any concepts to it. I just wrote some stuff, and that was that. I think the next album, perhaps for my own sake, I'd like to approach as a concept album, but not as a prose album. Odyssey has a consistent linear story that goes from start to finish. Whereas, The Man with No Face, it's like it's a bunch of songs that are perhaps a bit disconnected from each other, but all serve a concept. And perhaps what I'd like to do is something like that for the next album. I don't know, though. These things are always in flux. Like, the way I approach writing lyrics for other projects is very different. The Fissures album that I've been working on for the past like kind of 2-3 years now, the lyrics for that I wrote a lot on like my phone in notes. A lot of it was just like kind of drunken train poetry. I'd be like on a train to some place and I'd like kind of have a beer and I'd just like write some stuff on my phone, and then I'd actually like retrofit it to the music that I'd write afterwards. Sometimes I would write the lyrics to it. Sometimes I would improvise the lyrics after I hit record and go, well, that works. Cool. And I wouldn't change anything. So maybe next time I'll kind of liberate myself from needing to be so ordered about it. I don't know.
And that's what you mean by free writing in this case, right? Where it's just like, instead of sitting down going, here's what I want to write about, you're just like, right, here it is.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated by that because I try to do the same thing and I go, okay. Like I was making fun of myself as I do the other day. I'm like, you have all these lyrics written, but no music. And I'm like, that's just poetry. That's like, it's not music yet. They have to coexist. So, that being said, I do know, I think it was back in January, you started offering some creative writing workshops, which I thought was a really great way to just make some income and do stuff. How have those been going? And what is your aim with those types of workshops?
I mean, yeah, they've been going okay. I got way more interest than I could actually keep up with and cope with. going from like, I'd literally like just moved house. I'd just moved in with my girlfriend. Like, my life had fallen apart for like 4 years before. So I'd literally only just gotten back on my feet. And I was like, right, time to guilt myself into trying to be a productive member of society. That was where it came from. It wasn't some like altruistic thing of like, oh, I want to help people. It was like, oh, I'm poor as shit. Fuck you, Gareth, you suck. Stop being such a fucking pauper. Make some money, you fuck. So that's where it came from. And yeah, I got more interest than I could deal with. I've had to actually downscale a bit, like the number of students that I'm seeing, and downscale the workload because it was stressing me out. But yeah, I mean, I figured instead of doing vocal lessons because my technique is fucking dog shit, and I'm like Corey Taylor on Iowa kind of technique. I just scream. Like I can't seem to learn good technique. I try, but I just can't do it.
Oh.
So fuck it. I'll scream until I can't anymore, and then I'll sing for the rest of my days and only make pop songs and make loads of money, hopefully. But yeah, I figured it would be unethical to like teach people that stuff. And I do have a lot of people coming to me asking for me to teach them vocals. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. I figured, I'd like to think I'm pretty good at writing. People say to me like, you're really good at that. And I'm like, cool. Okay. Well, how about I start fucking charging for it? As any good capitalist should do. So I did.
Monetize all the hobbies.
Monetize all the things that you enjoy in life so you can learn to hate them. Nah, I don't hate it though. Like the students that I've got are all really cool. Like the free writing thing actually is one of the first things I try and instill in people because it seems like most people do actually struggle with that. And I think it is a thing that you need to practice at. It's like meditation. People are like, I can't seem to like meditate. I can't meditate because they can't quieten their minds. They're like, how do I quieten my mind? And I'm like, it's not about quietening it. It's about letting it all just flow past you. Observe it. You acknowledge these things as they go by and you go, okay, well, that exists. And I think free writing is kind of the same. Like you're not trying to like control, you're not trying to grab onto any of those thoughts. You're just observing them and hopefully kind of lessening the blockage between your brain and your hand. Like, yeah, somewhere along the way, like maybe the synapses are like, actually, no, do this instead. And your hand kind of does something else. And it's tricky. So yeah, that's one of the first things I try and instill in people. And I try and, I'll show them what free writing might look like for me. And I say like, oh, okay, well, here's a piece of writing that you're working on and you're missing like say lines 3 and 4 of this verse. Let's free write some lines and see if that kind of jogs anything. So I say, okay, let's both shut up for like 2 minutes, write some stuff and see what we've got. And I inevitably end up with like 5 times more than them, but that's because I actually practiced it. So yeah, all my students are actually developing like really well, really quickly. It's lots of fun to like help people with their passion projects. I mean, people are coming to me with these like high concept epics that they want to make. And I'm finding that they're running into a lot of the same roadblocks that I did in terms of like how to approach a large project, a long form concept album. It's difficult to organize your thoughts into a way that is expressible. So I'm using all the things that I've learned from Odyssey and, passing them on to other people so that they can manage their projects easier. And yeah, people seem to be taking to it. And it's really nice. And it's putting some money in my pocket, which is also really nice. So
no, that's fantastic. I can't imagine. I just can't imagine like trying to have to be so organized with how I work to pass it on to others. Because that is really difficult. But actually it's funny, like the reason, well, not the reason, but the more recent push to do this interview was after you said some very, very kind things about me after my lecture. And I thought it was just like funny how when you are genuinely good at and passionate about something, you almost don't have to organize your thoughts. Like it just like comes out of you in this like flow state. Like if you were to sit down and analyze how you did it, it would ruin it. You just kind of do it because it's the thing you do.
Yeah. I mean, my classes, I found I'm a pretty scatterbrained person. Like I'm much more like lucid when I'm writing. Like I stutter and I go constantly when I speak. And yeah, it's all kind of jilted and I get sidetracked on my own thoughts all the time. But, students are then welcome to like ask me a question about something I've been rambling about for like 3 minutes. And they go, well, what's the thinking behind that? And then I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't thought about that. And then
I haven't thought about my thoughts.
yeah. Then I have to elucidate it for them. And it becomes an exchange. I don't really clock watch the classes either. Like a lot of teachers, they're like, oh, an hour for X amount of time. I said 60 to 90 minutes with no kind of clock watching. And a lot of the time they end up kind of pushing nearly 2 hours because we get into the flow of things. And you know what, like if things are working, I don't want to stop it just because I'm there like being a capitalist. Like if we're having a good exchange and I'm benefiting from it and they're benefiting from it, like fuck it, we can go longer. Yeah. So it's helped me learn about my own processes. And yeah, people seem to enjoy the fact that it's me. They're coming to me for me. I don't have to feel imposter syndrome about being who I am. If they're happy to pay for like a scatterbrained person to like tell them how they very scatterbrainedly came to their conclusions and they are satisfied with that, cool. It's all good.
Right. Man, the imposter syndrome thing is like such a difficult thing to get over. And I mean, I guess you just have to find the thing that is like, this is my purpose. This is my, what they say is like your special interest or whatever. I mean, has that been like one of the harder challenges in starting this type of workshop?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to like the actual music stuff, I don't really feel much of that imposter syndrome stuff because I never really feel like I'm putting anything on, and it's just fine. I don't get that thing from the music, but with this, when it's like it's kind of more commerce based and people are paying for a service, I guess there's a thing in the back of my mind saying like this has to be like not shit. This needs to be of like comparable quality to what other people are offering. And I think, there's been a little internal battle between like whether that's valid or whether that's toxic or whether the truth is kind of somewhere in the middle. And I think I've landed at like, well, people are coming to me for me and I am who I am and I need to not denigrate myself for that. And if they keep paying for it and they keep coming back, that just says enough, But still there's that little voice that's like, hey, you're shit. You should organize these lessons better. I try not to listen to that voice. That voice says a lot of very mean shit about me.
It's our wonderful brains that, like you said earlier in this chat, love to self-sabotage. Well, that being said, you had another topic you wanted me to bring up, which was kind of your efforts in getting together sort of like a promotional hub for Slice the Cake, and you've done that with the bakery, the Discord group. How has that helped you feel more connected with the fan base, and like has it inspired you in certain ways, or is that something you're going to continue to develop?
Yeah, well, the bakery is kind of phase one of this plan for world dominance that we have, as every band does, I think. We want to kind of create. I want to pay shit forward. I want to uplift other people's bands. I want to get our fans into the music that, our friends and our family create. I want to be able to have a space to, uplift other creators, be they album artists or, other service providers, like video editors, stuff like that. And create some kind of all-encompassing network, I guess. It's difficult though. Like a lot of people, they aren't willing to like click on something unless it's directly related to you, basically. Like, they all just want more Slice, and it's like, actually, we're like, hey, we listened to Azure. Galen played for us, and Azure are amazing, and they're just like, I don't think I will. But the bakery and the bakery Discord is the first stage in an effort to like actively combat people going, I don't think I will. And yeah, like I haven't actually been maintaining it very well like the past like week and change because I've just been too fucking busy to like go in there and start conversations all the time. But I see you in there, like, you know, doing bits.
It takes time. It really does take time. So
I mean, I think, you know, the plan is to do official like album launch listening parties like there. We've always had like a website where there's like a chat box and a Bandcamp kind of embed. And people can come there and they'll like listen to the album and they'll be in the chat box going like, oh, so sick, man. Oh, all this kind of shit. You know, since joining Images and Words and seeing how they do listening parties, like that's been inspiring to like, to me, I guess. And yeah, basically want to rip that off for Slice. You know, like we'll get all the fans in at a new album launch and we'll get everyone to synchronize up. And then because they've come to the Discord, hopefully they'll stick around. And yeah, that's the game plan, I guess.
I think one of the best parts of doing something like that is, like you said, it kind of takes the mask off. And I actually didn't think about this until we're almost like at an hour of talking. I just remembered the fact that the first time I heard your voice in the Images and Words Discord was the night that you joined the voice chat and you were reading off the Lusty Argonian Maid, and everybody was like, "Holy shit, this is the guy from Slice the Cake doing," and like we're all laughing our asses off.
Drunk
And I'm
as
just
shit
like,
as well.
yeah, it was so fucking funny. And I just remember going like, how wild is my life right now? Like this person from a band that I think is so cool is just sitting in here reading off fan fiction from a game, and like that's their actual voice actually there. And it, I don't know, it was just like this weird light bulb moment for me. And those types of interactions to me are just like, oh, chef's kiss. Just like,
I love that shit, man. Like, even you remember like back in the day when the piracy scene for music was like blogspot pages. And
from like Russia or something.
Yeah, so like kind of the early 2010s, especially around there. Like I remember when like we released The Man with No Face, they were really active. Like the blogspot metal scene was like popping, and they all had chat boxes and all their various piracy blogs. So what we did was we would give like official controlled releases to the piracy blogs so that we had control over like what was getting uploaded there, and hopefully then what would spread. And you know, we knew people were going to steal it anyway, because it's the internet, man. Like of course people are going to pirate stuff, although now piracy is like hugely diminished because Spotify got their way, and copyright is enforced a shitload more on the internet. And I'm honestly not sure how I feel about it, as much as I believe that musicians should fucking get paid, and everyone that makes stuff should get paid for their work. I know that as a teenager, my taste was shaped by downloading tons of stuff that I couldn't afford. And I would never begrudge any young music fan the ability to do that. I really wouldn't. But I guess now we have, you know, you pay a tenner a month and you get your Spotify account and you've got access to millions and millions of artists, and that's really cool. But yeah, you know, we'd go to the chat boxes on these blog spots and we would just chat to people, and do this kind of grassroots mask off promo and just jam with people online, just like we've always done. And Images and Words and like, you know, meeting you there and being steaming drunk reading The Lusty Argonian Maid was really just another day in the life for me.
So it wasn't anything novel for you. It was just like, oh, we've been doing this since 2009. Like, whatever.
Like it's the same like, you know, festivals and stuff. Like people come up to me and they're like, oh, you're Gareth Mason, you Slice the Cake. And I'm just there like, you know, I'm like 3 days into a fucking festival bender. Like, yeah, man, what's up, dude? How's it going, man? You want a beer? You want to roll a joint together, bro? I'll talk to fucking anyone, man. I don't give a shit, you know. And I find that people, they're all a bit like starstruck for like 10 minutes. And then they get over it because they realize I'm a fucking idiot. And I'm also a fucking idiot that made a thing that they really like. And that suits me just fine, honestly.
That's such a good perspective on it. Before it leaves my brain, I want to touch on the thing you said about Spotify and how, you know, you're like, oh, I'm kind of conflicted that it brings my music to people, but it doesn't really compensate me. I mean, if you could change like one major thing about kind of the music industry or the ecosystem, what would you change?
Oh, that's really hard to say. I mean, the things that I'd really like to say, I actually probably shouldn't.
Redacted.
Yeah. I mean, I'll put it this way: like, one of my bands is signed, and I believe in the DIY ethos, and I believe in owning your music, so to speak, and owning the rights to your shit, and owning the profits to it as well. Yeah, I guess the gate that is well kept in the music industry is what I would perhaps change. I want to democratize music more. You know, the rise of like Bandcamp and stuff like CD Baby, where people can just put their music up on Spotify, you know, that they made in their bedroom on a laptop. Good. Give me more of that. And I know all the old guard and all the PR companies and all the analog desk guys are like, no, you need to come into a real expensive studio and make a real expensive album where people, you know, do all this shit. And then you need to pay the PR companies and you need to be on a label and all this kind of stuff. But I'm just like, no, it's fucking stupid. God, I've basically said all the stuff I shouldn't have said, but fuck it, man. I don't give a shit, man.
I don't think that's honestly. I don't think it's too controversial in an opinion though anymore these days because most people are like wanting to kind of strike back at this super crazy like hierarchy of music ownership and promotion that's been persistent since like modern music. Like
since the dawn of recorded music, that's been there, and that's I keep referring to capitalism, but it really is just capitalism in action. You know, like I want to make music communism where everyone can have a bit, you know, and there's no gatekeeping, there's no guy in control of the money and the power at the top saying this can go past the gate and this can't. And I think stuff like Bandcamp, CD Baby, again, net positive, but the problem is that since piracy and the internet became such a thing, it emboldened that side of the music industry to clamp down and to consolidate that position in a long-term way because they were scared. And I think musicians probably did make more money before. Back in the old days, I think they did make more money, and I think artist development and management was a lot more real than it is these days. And the two kind of issues are quite symbiotic, I think. And I guess it's not an easy fix, but yeah. I mean, I see all these people putting out their albums all the time, and I know they're not making fucking any money off it, even if it is, you know, a DIY release through Bandcamp. Like, we've been very fortunate in Cake that like people apparently do see our work as being worth spending money on. And we haven't capitalized on that anywhere near as hard as we could do. Because we suck at life. All three of us, we're total scrubs, you know. There's like all this money out there that people want to give us and we haven't taken it. But people do give us money. Like Odyssey sold really well for a digital only release, marred by some circumstances. You know, we made good money off Odyssey for that first year. Not
that's
enough.
What you actually want to hear. Yeah, but right, that's what you want to hear when you put so much work and effort into that.
Yeah, I mean, but also we played it smart. Like, we didn't spend 10 grand going into a studio. We didn't spend thousands on PR. We didn't do all this stuff that you're supposed to do, and that all the kind of industry dinosaurs get pissed off if you don't do it, because it means they're not making their fucking money. But it means that we can make the money. Everyone elsewhere in the music industry wants to get paid and does get paid, except the musician. We're the ones who end up, you know, losing the fucking rights to the music that we made, to our babies. We lose the rights to that, and we won't, you know, get them back for like 100 years because of how copyright law works. We lose the rights to it, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll recoup all the costs first before you see a penny of it, and you won't see a penny of it. So we basically made an album that, perhaps would have been budgeted at like, 15, 20K for other bands, and did it for a budget of basically nothing. And that means the profits were all ours. And I think that's how it fucking should be. And if bands aren't making money yet, or they're not like a sure thing in the market and they want to make money off it, I think they should sidestep all the dinosaurs and go as DIY as possible and let the music speak for itself. Because if people really give a shit, they'll give you money, man.
Yeah. It's exciting to know that's the way. I think that's the way that the industry is heading. It's a very slowly rolling stone, but it's getting there.
I don't think that's where the industry is heading. I think it's where
really?
the art world is heading. The art world. Industry and commerce and the actual world of like art and expression and the democratization of people's ability to make and release art. Like, that is all going in a really amazing direction. But commerce is not really... They're bashing heads, they're butting heads. And
I'm glad you made the distinction, because I did say industry, but what I meant is like the trend of, how people consume it, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wish that those people who are of that world, of democratized art, were getting a bit more money for their efforts. I'm not going to say their work, because like sometimes it is just a bit of fun for people. But you know what, man? Like even stuff that's just a bit of fun is probably worthy of like $10. Like people just listen to it on Spotify. Like, if you like a band, go and buy their shit on Bandcamp. Give them the fucking money for it. I'm poor, so I don't do that as much as I'd like to, but I do. If I like some shit, I'll pay for it on Bandcamp and try and give them direct income, no matter how much it is or how little. Yeah.
It's wild, though, how much it costs to really produce an album. Like, I was just talking to a friend the other day working on a new album, and I mean, it's just like the numbers she's telling me were insane. And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, it's the whole ecosystem, and it is what it is. So
it is not a cheap thing to be a part of. And like I said, everyone else wants to get paid, and they all know that in the world of music, they are doing skilled labor, as it were. It's not minimum wage labor, it's skilled labor. And they make sure that they get their money for it. And then, what does the musician get at the end of it? Fucking peanuts, and they lose the rights to their materials. So
yeah. I didn't know that until actually yesterday, when I bought some plugin pack for something, and it says right in the intro, it's like, chord progressions cannot be copyrighted, but melodies can. And I just went, well, what?
Yep,
That blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind.
Yeah. On that subject, there was a guy that did he generated, because obviously, Western music relies on the 12-tone musical system, right? So we have 12 tones to work with, repeating up octaves, but they're all the same notes. He then made this system that generated every sequence of notes that is possible to make out of 12 notes. And of course, that numbered in like the millions and billions. Because, ordering 12 numbers, if you will, 12 numbers, it's like a maths problem. If you try and brute force a maths problem, the more numbers you have in your data sets that you're using to try and brute force, the longer it's going to take, and the more permutations you're going to have to go through until you find that one solution. So it's kind of like that. You've got 12 numbers, quote unquote, and that's your data set. And thus, your permutation number at the end of it all is going to be fucking huge. But he did do it. And it was it was something to do with like this guy's thinking into copyright law and the problem of there is only 12 notes. People are bound to stumble upon the same thing totally separately. And then, people will take that shit to like copyright law court cases, and they're like, this guy ripped off my song. And honestly, I get the impression most of the time that people are just stumbling upon the same melody on just completely separate bases. Yeah.
I saw a TikTok yesterday that took the little, whenever you're sneaking around in Metal Gear Solid and the little exclamation mark above Snake's head. Apparently, that's the exact same chord as there's a cutscene in one of the Crash Bandicoot games where like Neo is talking about something and there's like a noise he makes and it's the same thing. And this guy on TikTok was like, well, did Naughty Dog Studios like hear this and copy it? Or I mean, chances are no. I mean, they're living in like separate entities and it's so easy to go, oh, well, yeah, clearly he ripped that off.
Especially when you think about like
totally
the function within like music theory, like there's this concept of like functional harmony. Like certain chords in a sequence want to follow each other. Certain notes want to resolve in certain directions, and certain sequences of notes have a certain feeling associated with them, or that seems to give rise to that feeling in people. You know, the perfect fifth is like it's homely and warm, like it's like, it's nice. And then if you want to express, shock or surprise, and you're doing it with like one chord, 3 notes, let's say 3 notes, you might jump to like, a diminished chord. And that is like, it's functional. So when like Metal Gear Solid and Crash Bandicoot both have like a kind of sound.
Yeah.
It's like they're probably going to have gone like, well, what functionally is the right set of notes to use there? And they probably stumbled upon the exact same ones through function rather than through ripping each other off.
Right. And it was the logical conclusion that was drawn.
Yeah. So I think that includes kind of melodies and stuff as well regarding what you were saying before. It's crazy, man. Yeah, it's really crazy.
Well, that to follow that up, I guess, I'll start to hit you with some of the more general questions toward the end, but I've started throwing this in my mix too. What is the best song you've listened to in the last week?
Ooh.
Maybe month, whatever. If there's anything that really sticks out.
Oh man. I mean, I'm really excited for the new Ben Howard album, so probably one of the singles from that album. Yeah,
I know you listed him as a personal influence for sure.
Yeah. I mean, both Jonas and I like love all that kind of singer-songwriter sort of stuff. Like, for the people at home, like Phoebe Bridgers was my album of the year last year, like, and not a death metal band or whatever. So I think that kind of says it all. Yeah, probably one of the new Ben Howard singles. I couldn't pick one, honestly.
Okay, that's fair. These are kind of my little blasé, but I always like to ask them questions anyway. What's the best advice you can give to aspiring musicians? And then what is your own definition of success?
What advice would I give to aspiring musicians? Just keep it real, man. Like, don't worry about what the next guy's doing. Don't worry about what the industry dinosaurs say. Like, do it for you. Make what you want to make and try and have fun doing it because it's for you. It's not for anyone else. It's a selfish endeavor. So just try and enjoy it, and fuck what the next guy says. If you had a good time making it and you're happy with the end result, cool. That's it. And in terms of success, like what does success look like to me? I guess what I just said, but also enough people giving you validation for your work that you feel validated. Like if my following never grows any larger than it is now, I don't care because I've already hit my point where I'm like, I've got an audience. People care what I have to say. People will fucking listen to anything I put out because I'm on it. Cool. Job done. I'd like to maybe make some more money, but I don't think it's, I don't want to kind of cross those wires too hard. That's just my piece.
That's fair. I do have a question from the Discord, actually. I did get a DM from someone who asked, when is more merch being released?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's on the agenda. Like, I need to check in with the guys about where we're at with a couple of things. We've got a couple of new designs banging about. We've got one that we're thinking will be a kind of summery t-shirt. We might be doing some synthwave aesthetic cake merch. We've got a hoodie in the works, and we need to also restock on the stuff we have. So because of like Brexit and like COVID and stuff, it seems like supply lines for merch are a bit fucky right now, and we were looking into all of that. And our last source for t-shirts, they've been having trouble just getting their plain black shirts in.
Oh, jeez.
So that's thrown a spanner in the works. But like, yeah, like pretty soon.
Okay. Cool. Before I hit you with my final question, then I just wanted to give you the opportunity, if you wanted to mention anything else I didn't cover, whether that's Novena or Fissures or anything else you're working on.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to plug Fissures, I guess, then. Yeah, I've been working on this album for like 3 years. It's called Murmurations. It's kind of like a prog metal album as made by someone who really likes Bon Iver and Ben Howard and like Jeff Buckley. It's a singer-songwriter album for a prog metal audience. And I've been working on that for like 3 years now. It's got Slice the Cake's drummer Andrew Scott on it. Moat from Novena and Cake will be playing bass on it. Harrison will be on keys. Various other friends will be on it in kind of various regards. And basically, I wrote and recorded all the music. Otherwise, it's all like more clean vocals and it's my baby. It's the baby that I've been nurturing for a few years now. It's kind of the true current follow up to Odyssey to the West, at least for my side of things. So. If people care about that and they want to hear that, then I'm hoping to put that out winter this year because I think it's a kind of winter album. You can follow Fissures on Facebook. We are there somewhere. There's a YouTube channel, but it's pretty dead right now. But yeah, if you want to hear more about that stuff, follow the Fissures page, and I'll surely post about it on Slice the Cake's page as well. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. And if people don't know about it or whatever, then that's a thing. Please listen. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah,
please care.
I think the little please
listen. Please stuff. Care about my stuff.
The things you've posted about it does seem really interesting. I mean, especially when you lead in with like, okay, it's like singer-songwriter, but prog metal kind of, I don't know. Either way, it's knowing you, it'll be awesome. So yes, I will care and I will listen. So, all right, Gareth. Well, I have to hit you with my last question then. If you could only listen to 3 albums for the rest of your life, what would they be and why?
Ooh. Oh my God. What a difficult question. Oh shit. What do I fucking listen to for the rest of my life? Okay. Ulcerate, The Destroyers of All. There's one. I love the emotional feeling of that album. It's heavy, but it's not like kick you in the face heavy. It doesn't make you feel like you've just been like slammed headfirst into a wall. It's like nice, oceanic, drifty. Also very much a death metal album. It's still dark. It still kind of hurts. Love it. It's just a nice, satisfying listen. Bon Iver self-titled album. Yeah, classic. What else? One more album. God, that's hard. I don't know. Grace by Jeff Buckley. I don't think I could go the rest of my days without hearing that. Even if like the other 2 are the ones that I listen to like 9 days out of 10, and then I only listen to Grace on that last day. Fine. Yeah, it needs to be
fair.
There. Yeah.
I have not listened to much of his work, but I sure seem to think that he's like a guy who was he was just left this world too soon.
You're too pure for this world, man.
Yeah.
So much. Please, Jeff, come back. We miss you. Oh my God.
2021 needs you, Jeff Buckley.
Yeah, you really need to come back now. Yeah.
Well,
it would have to be Grace.
Gareth, thank you so much for chatting with me. Thanks for agreeing to spill the beans on everything. Of course. It's cool hearing things about your projects and not just the lusty Argonian maid, but no. I mean, I'm sure once I hit stop recording, I'm gonna like log on to Discord and I'll see you there in like 2 minutes. But you know, either way, thank you for sharing your time and letting me pick your brain. So
yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to kind of dive deep into some of the lore behind this stuff, because I feel like there's a lot of cool stories to tell, like from behind the scenes, that don't get told very often. And like, you know, no good story starts with a salad. Instead, they start with like
right, bringing it back to salad. I love it.
Yeah. It's like all the best stories start with a psychotic break and a breakdown and a riff. I mean, by breakdown I mean riff, but fuck it, take it however you want. Yeah.
I love the full circle parenthetical we've come to. All right, that concludes my 50th special episode of Tapestry. Thank you to Gareth Mason for joining me. I had a blast talking with you. You can follow all of their various musical projects on social media, most notably Slice the Cake. You can find them on Instagram under slicethecake_official and on Facebook at facebook.com/STC project. Also, make sure to stay tuned for everything going on with Fissures. And, you know, don't forget about Novena. They just put out a really great album called 11th Hour last year. I know we didn't really talk about them too much, but they also have some fantastic tunes. So, hope you enjoyed the interview, and as always, thanks for listening.